Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Draven Who Games, where today we have a brand new series coming right at you, Newstalgia Retro Review, which where we review cool, kind of forgotten or bad, in some cases, retro games, and we kind of take a look at them and see if they're any good or not. We'll have a little rating at the end. I'll show some gameplay, give you my thoughts if it released on other consoles, and we'll take a look at most of the other consoles. And, yeah. See, to some of you, I may seem like a Spider fan. But although I am a Spider fan, I have to say I'm also a Captain America fan. So, when I know that pun was pretty bad. But, you know, when I was young, I guess I still am, when I was younger, I went to the arcade in a mall. It's kind of really a very abandoned mall. It was at the time, still is. The arcade is called Arcade Legacy. And this place had an arcade machine called Captain America and the Avengers. And, well, I didn't know it got a console release. So when I started modding my RetroPie, well, not modding, but, you know, I got my Raspberry Pi, started putting RetroPie on it. I thought, you know what, let's go back and play this classics. Although, I could not get arcade emulation to work. But I did find 3 glorious console titles with the same name of Captain America and the Avengers. Or, in this case, as these, well, 2 of them actually say the name, so as 2 of them say, first up will be SNES and second Genesis. Just take a listen to these bad boys and how these professional voice actors introduce the game.
The Avengers! The Avengers!
So yeah, as you can tell by those first 2 clips, we are in for a treat. Again, we will not be covering the arcade version because I can't get arcade emulation to work. Yeah. I just want to let you guys know kind of the rundown, the specs of how I've played these. All actual captures, so anything that you actually see on your screen, is from PC emulators. So on my actual gaming laptop, the Dell Inspiron 157,000 Gaming, they've been caught on that through a few different emulators, a SNES, an NES, and a Genesis, of course. I believe the SNES is like SNES 9X, Genesis is something called Fusion, and then I can't even remember what the name of the NES one was. But I've actually played these games, like, legitimately kind of gone through them. Not till the end, no. Do you think I have time to actually 100% complete a game? Nope. I got the new Mario Odyssey update to play. I don't got time for this. But anyway, so, but I've actually played, what I have played of the games, I've actually played on the RetroPie, the Raspberry Pi Model B3. So, yeah, it's the best of the best for Raspberry Pis anyway. It is running RetroPie. So, yeah, I'm not going to tell you where you can get these ROMs because that's a legal gray area. And I cannot tell you where you guys can check these out for yourselves, but maybe somebody will comment in the comment section, and I can't control that. But you can find these games yourself and emulate them, test them all out. They're all right. I mean, you'll have to see these golden things for yourselves. So, I guess we'll actually get into the legitimate review part. So, let's hit it. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Okay, so, you know, these games do have a plot. Not a very great one, not a very original one, but they do have a plot. The first 2 followed the story of Red Skull trying to conquer the world. And so that's the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo. And as well as the arcade version. And they all follow the same basic plot, and they are sort of the same game. But not entirely. You see, that's the problem. But you see, the thing is that the NES goes off on another direction. It talks about the Mandarin taking over the world. And then, again, those 2 games are completely different. But at the same time, they both came out in the 90s. And then also, they have the same title, the same cast of these beautiful, stunning Avengers. You got Hawkeye, Captain America, Iron Man, and Vision. I really can't think of anybody else you're missing. So, I mean, that's the best. That's the best team you got. Uh, so it's yeah. But you see, the first two games, again, Genesis and Super Nintendo, they are a more brawler. Yeah, it's a brawler style game. That's the genre it would be in. Is a brawler. So you go along as your character and you fight. You beat up some bad guys as you just walk forward. And it's really fun, to be honest. But I mean, there's some exceptions that again we'll get into when I show you some of the actual gameplay. But the NES version is a completely different game. Again, not only in story, but in actual gameplay. You see, the NES version is more of a platformer. You'll see some of that stunning platforming. It's a platformer with, again, your 4 Avengers, and it even, I believe, has a 2-player co-op. So, it's interesting. I think they both have co-op, but you really have to see these games to believe it, especially the NES version. That one is a treat. So, let's go ahead and rate the gameplay. So, let's hit it. Yeah. Okay, so again, first up is gameplay, how the game actually plays, as the title states. So the first ones we're going to look at is the Super Nintendo and the Genesis versions, and we'll talk about the NES version because it's a whole nother beast. But yeah, so the first two are considered beat 'em ups, slash brawlers, whatever you want to call them. And it focuses on going from, one point to another, beating up bad guys that are along your way. And the Super Nintendo version falls flat in actual gameplay, in that compared to the arcade version, which felt so smooth and natural, the Super Nintendo just feels really jerky and just not very good. It feels really, really choppy, and I think, again, I'll get into this a little later, but I think it put visuals in front of actual gameplay. And I don't know if I don't know. The Super Nintendo version just was not my thing. It did not feel smooth enough gameplay-wise compared to the arcade version that I just couldn't really have that great of a time playing it. And that is really bad. And then Sega Genesis feels really good. It feels like the arcade version. Everything, like all the punches, everything, like all the moves feel smooth and connected, and just how I remember playing it in the arcade, and the animations look pretty good. Again, I'll get into that stuff later, but it just feels a lot better to play, and I think that's where the Sega Genesis kind of tops it in this category, and that it really does emulate kind of that arcade feeling of the game when I played it well in Arcade Legacy, so I have to give it the edge, and yeah. There is a problem with both of these games, though, and that is enemies. Sometimes it can get a little ridiculous, especially with this one enemy. I'll put up on the screen both of the versions, because I think they both have a version of this. I'll show a version of it, and it's this guy in the first stage. He has like a whiplash sort of thing, and he will hold you there for like a wholesome 30 seconds, just holding you there in place as everybody else bombards you, and as soon as you move, he gets you again. And oh my gosh, it's so annoying. And I mean that's really the only annoying part. I mean, it is hard. It is a harder game, but that enemy, my gosh, the enemies in this game can be kind of infuriating, kind of stupid sometimes. And that's where the whole thing in total kind of falls flat at some point. So yeah, now it's time to tackle the whole other beast, which is the NES version. This one is completely different. It is a platformer instead of a beat 'em up, and it feels good. Like throwing Cap's shield feels really smooth and really good. Jumping feels amazing, and it really feels amazing that it's even on the NES. It plays fantastically, but the freaking level design, they messed it up so bad. I don't even know how to respond to it. Like, all the levels feel like copy and paste versions of the same level. I mean, again, the first two levels, which are really the only ones I've played, because I just can't get over how it is. Like, they feel like the same level. They even kind of look like the same level. Again, I'll get into that with visuals. But the platforming challenges felt exactly the same, and so did the characters. And though the characters feel really good in this, it just, like, the level design is so bad. And the enemy placement just seems completely random, and they just kind of stand there, and it's just, like, it's just not good. Whoever thought that was a good idea just didn't know what they were doing. And though it can lead to some funny jokes, which I'll mention later, and visuals, I just can't get over it. They had something there. They really did, and they really blew it. Yeah. That's all I have to say about the NES version. You have to, like, bust open these capsules. I'm not really sure what they do. Never tells you what they do. Never shows you what they do. And it really just isn't enticing gameplay. So, yeah. I guess we'll go ahead and hop into visuals, because this is going to be a fun ride. Visuals. Okay, so now to visuals, and this is the fun part. So, yeah, visually wise, I don't think anything could have beaten the arcade version. Again, I can't really show you anything because I can't get the emulation to work right. But comparing it to the arcade version, the Super Nintendo looks the best, I think. All the textures look a little better, a little cleaner. Everything has a little bit more pop, some more flair to it. Doesn't really blend together, and it looks visually, it looks really good. And the Genesis version cannot say that. The Genesis version, again, I'm going to show gameplay. That's what this whole thing is about. But the Genesis version looks kind of washed out, one-tone color. Like the ground just looks like flesh for a little bit in the first level. It's just not so good. And yeah, so the Super Nintendo gets this one. The Super Nintendo just looks a little crisper, clearer, and yeah, it takes the cake on this one. I don't know. It depends on who you are and who you ask. But visuals can sometimes be better than gameplay. But I'm one of those guys that I really like to have a balance of both. And in this case, the Genesis is kind of more of a balance. Again, the Genesis doesn't look horrible. It just does not look nearly as good as the Super Nintendo version. The characters, the character models, they're interesting. Yeah, Super Nintendo gets it pretty good. They look pretty good. I have to talk about one of the animations again. Whoever was in charge of animating Vision, they're amazing. So first off, Vision in both versions of the game, I don't know if this was his original comic appearance, he's just white. Like, just white. If you've seen him, you probably saw him in the background early in the video, and if you've ever seen any of the movies, he's like green and red. But no, in this, he's just white. And my favorite part is that he looks like he's got a diva runway fashion walk thing going on in the game. It is truly glorious, and I don't know if you guys will laugh as much as I did when I saw this, but oh my gosh, it is legendary. So congratulations to whoever did that. But yeah, other than that, there's really nothing notable on the characters except, at least on the Super Nintendo version, there is something interesting about the Genesis version, and that is the animations for most people look a little bit cleaner, I think. But Captain America, I'll show you a little picture. He's looking a little toasty. He's looking just a little toasty. Like he's been put in the toaster oven for a little bit. Or maybe he's been on the beach for a while. He's got a nice suntan going there. It's pretty great. Again, Sega Genesis, man. It ain't doing so hot graphically in the case of this game. And it really shows, kind of. And the enemies, again, look better on the Super Nintendo. Yeah, so Super Nintendo wins visuals. Congratulations. Woo. Now we're going to talk about NES, and that's where things get fun as well. NES, man. It takes you through a legendary trip through the United States. And the first level, it has you play in Tampa, Florida, which Tampa apparently now looks like a rainforest with tons of waterfalls and big trees. And like the sky is either green or blue in this one. I get them confused because of what I'm going to mention later. Well, here it is right now. That you eventually, I think it's the Mississippi River is where you go next. And the thing looks exactly the same. Again, Mississippi, I think that's where this one takes place. Or maybe it's New Orleans. Again, it all blends together because it's just basically they took Tampa, Florida, which looked like a rainforest, and then they made the next one just the same rainforest and recolored it either green or blue. I think that the second one is green and the first one's blue, but it mixes together so brilliantly. And really, I didn't know that these two places were jungles until now, so I don't know. Again, visually, this game feels like it's just not supposed to be this game. It's really freaking weird. And I don't know what they were thinking at all. And, I mean, the overworld map looks kind of alright, and the characters look pretty good for NES. But the visuals, the freaking levels look so bad. Like, oh my gosh. But yeah, visuals, man. That's all I have to say about that. It's the NES, man. Woof. Woof. So yeah. Well, let's take it away to sound. Okay, so next up is, of course, sound. This one there's not a whole lot to know, except for the Sega Genesis version. Man, it opens up with a bang. Just listen, listen and watch this amazing opening cutscene. I mean, the music in this is truly great. Yeah, that tune is just rocking. But you know, overall the soundtrack for the Super Nintendo and Genesis versions are pretty good, I'd say. You know, like actual background music wise, and then NES. I don't even know if it has any music. I can't really honestly remember, because again, that whole game just feels like a weird mishmash dream that just is not. I don't know. It's just something. It's something, alright. That game is just. Woof! But one thing I can gripe about the Super Nintendo version of the game, as well as the Genesis version, is that, oh my gosh, every time you get hit, you make about the same noise. It's all like, hua, hua. Again, I'll play you a little clip here right now of these guys being hit in these versions, and oh my gosh, it's so repetitive, and it just gets kind of annoying. And so yeah, I'll leave you to listen to that, and then we'll jump back to the final review, the final score of this whole retro review thing. So yeah, just listen to this. In the end, you have 3 okay games. Yeah, so let's get into individual scoring. I'll create a more permanent scoring system in the future, but we're just gonna put some titles on these bad boys for right now. Let's just say highest is play it. Here, I'll put my hand in camera there. Cool. Highest is play it. Lowest is laugh at it / burn it. So we'll go with that one. So yeah, in the middle I'll make up something. We'll see. So yeah, overall, Super Nintendo version nails graphics but does not nail gameplay. And sound wise, sounds about the same as Genesis. And again, that hitting is so annoying. It'll ring in my ears forever. But so yeah, Super Nintendo version, we will give it a nice meh. That's my rating for that one, is meh. Because really, you don't have to play this one. You're really not getting the best gameplay. And although it looks nice, it just doesn't feel like what I want it to feel like. I want the arcade experience at my home. And you're really not going to get this with this one. I mean, maybe if you like a little bit more slow-paced combat, then maybe you'd like it. But overall, I just don't know. So yeah, meh. You can play it, you can't. It's really up to you. Next is Genesis, and this I believe is the definitive version of the game. I'm gonna give it a steady play it rating because it feels so much better than the Super Nintendo version. Again, the character models and everything. This looks kind of. But the soundtrack is really good, and the gameplay feels much better, like leagues better than the Super Nintendo. And yeah, that's kind of important. Gameplay is kind of important when it comes to games. And then finally, the NES version, burn it. Just burn it. No excuse for this. Burn it / laugh at it, because there is some funny crap going on here. Don't play it. Please. I know you want to laugh at it, but you can laugh at the gameplay in this video. Do not play it. Just don't do it. So yeah. So overall, Captain America and the Avengers has been a fun experience, but I mean, you can skip out on it. At least for those two. Sega Genesis, again, I would really recommend playing if you want a nice beat 'em up. It's pretty fun as far as, licensed games go for older generations of consoles. And yeah, overall, it's a pretty good beat 'em up. And that's about all I have to say about it. Yeah. So thank you all for watching the first ever Newstalgia retro review here on the channel. If you want to see more of this, again, it'll be more organized next time. I really wanted to get this out. I've been wanting to do this for a while. And so yeah, remember so if you want to see more, leave a like in the comment section down below. And remember to subscribe for more amazing content. Podcasts, gaming, I said that really weirdly, but all that stuff and more. And then remember to share these videos with a friend if you think they'll enjoy them. And, follow us on Facebook and go to GameJolt.com/LooterWorld to check out our game that we are working on here at Draven New Games. And with that, thank you all for watching. It's been fun, and goodbye.